Hello there, Deepan Karamsi. I'm the consulting sector leader for life sciences for KPMG. Glad to be here today with Mike Krajewski, who's one of our partners in our emerging technologies practice, and really excited to talk a little bit about the recent survey that we just did with our global life sciences clients. All right, Mike, welcome. Well, look, maybe give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Deepan. Super excited to be here today. So I help lead our digital transformation and emerging technology offerings across life sciences. And what that means is my role is to help our clients embrace kind of the unknown with technology, responsibly navigate through large, complex global transformations, and make sure we're taking the greatest capabilities out of AI, cloud, and data along the way.
Perfect. And so we got an exciting survey that's going on right now, right?
Yeah.
That you just published, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah.
Should we get into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So, top question of the day, AI, as always, right? So, why don't you give us a little bit of your thoughts based on the survey results of what our clients and life sciences companies around the world are thinking about in regards to AI?
Yeah, it's been a crazy, as everyone knows, 24 months or so with AI. And, generative AI is the top of every board conversation right now and top of investments across life sciences. And I think if you look back over the past kind of 18 months or so, you've seen a lot of experimentation, a lot of testing of use cases, and trying to figure out how does AI fit into my organizational strategy and my goals. And now we've sort of reached a point where I feel like the experimentation phase is starting to end. And now companies are starting to say, I have kind of mature AI architectures and capabilities. I know what my leading platforms and tools are. I'm establishing forms of AI governance. And now they're really getting into how do I take these use cases and deploy them at scale. So we're seeing a lot of structure put around use case evaluation, use case deployment, even things like change and transformation related to AI. And the leaders are starting to see real returns. They're rolling out global solutions. They're actually moving from POCs into production. And there's a large emergence with agentic AI. And what that really means is, generative AI is really good at creating content, either from your own data or from net new sources. But how do you take that content and orchestrate it into actions autonomously to create those AI agents? I think that's going to be the focus for the next year or two.
That's great. The words that caught my attention were use cases.
Yeah.
Right. So
Sure.
everybody's always asking about what are the specific use cases that we can get into. What are some of the use cases that came out of the study, or some of the things that you're talking about with our clients?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people are looking for that magical use case that's going to solve all their problems. And the answer is it probably doesn't exist, that one magical use case. But there are a lot of leading ones that I think life sciences has actually been sort of a leader in finding ways to use AI that are very fit for purpose for their unique business problems. So let me give you some examples. I think every pharma and medtech company has huge R&D functions, and R&D produces a tremendous amount of data. So technical product architectures, specifications, clinical trial data, it's all over the place in different systems, forms of documents. And that data has a lot of utility to the rest of the business. How they manufacture and distribute that, how they interface with regulators, even how they interface with the end customers. So there's a lot of untapped knowledge there, and we're seeing a use of generative AI to understand that wealth of product R&D data. How do you pull that data out via prompts, interactions with AI? How does that data help create things like device labels and intercarton labels? How does that data help feed into regulatory mandates like what's happening with UTMED in the EU and other places around the world? So there's a lot of possibility there to save a significant amount of cost and savings, as well as bring products to market a lot faster. So really excited what's happening in R&D there. Within supply chain, there's similar things happening, particularly around like how do we better forecast? Like how do I know what my inventory level should be? How do I maximize customer profitability and margins? And while data has always been used in that conversation, it's been hard to wrap your mind around thousands of scenarios and all the data points that they have. So AI is really creating new capabilities to forecast much more accurately and much more efficiently. And finally, I rounded off with the commercial space, right? That's how you're actually delivering products to customers, to patients, to providers, and giving those kind of field sales reps a better understanding of all the data points around a point of sale, around an opportunity. That's always been there in CRM systems, but again, we're seeing agentic AI really come into the CRM and the commercial life cycle to make them more efficient in the market.
So really good topics there. I think some really good notations. I know you mentioned UTMED a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about labeling for a second. I know you were instrumental in creating our new offering around LabelWise.
Yes.
How's that utilizing some of the Gen AI concepts that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a great use case. It's very industry specific. So within medtech and pharma, there's a lot of regulatory requirements to create the labels, both kind of the inner packaging as well as the things around the carton and the box that are very regulatory driven. So every regulatory region on the globe has their own requirements and specifications, and these companies must comply with those things. And today it's usually done very manually. You're going through troves of documentation and figuring out how that aligns to a regulatory expectation. Then how do you publish that in the right format and context? So we believe that you can take that process, which might take 6 to 9 months per product per drug, and compress it into a matter of weeks, and then be able to deploy that in different languages, translate different regions, because AI can understand the context of the regulation, it has access to that data, and it could produce the content in ways you never thought were possible a few years ago.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating use case. So we're really excited. I mean, some of the numbers that we're seeing with our clients as to what kind of efficiencies they're getting are just fascinating.
Yeah, it seems like
Great concept.
it seems like a true ROI that is almost a
Absolutely.
no-brainer. It can save a ton of resource time and bring products to market faster and higher quality with the regulator. So it's win-win on many accounts.
Perfect. All right, so let's get into maybe a couple of nuances that we saw in the report. You know,
Yeah.
what's surprising to me is that actually it mentioned that a number of organizations are underinvesting in data management. Right. So how is that kind of having an impact on AI or the other objectives then goals that organizations have?
Yeah, I was not surprised to see that in the report, because I've heard a lot of my clients struggling with that and the lack of investments available to that. And it's really come to light recently, because while we can talk about all the great things AI could do for an organization, AI needs data to be successful. So there's this kind of renewed focus or renewed awareness that if I don't have quality data, accessible data, information that I know where it lies, where's that source of truth, AI can't get you too far. So we're seeing a resurgence in this year, and I think it's going to continue, where organizations are doubling down on what data management looks like. What is good data governance? Should I be standing up data offices in different parts of my organization to make sure that I'm kind of creating the right frameworks and contracts around data and thinking about data differently? We just don't want to move data into large data lakes and warehouses. We want to build domains of knowledge around information and curate that knowledge so AI and other systems can take advantage of that. Like some examples might be, building a modern data platform around all your supply chain data that is curated around common data models, common taxonomy, has proven quality and lineage, so you can use it for regulatory matters. That unlocks a whole world of possibility. Seeing the same thing happen with R&D data, like I explained a little earlier ago. A lot of opportunities around getting my data more accessible, higher quality.
Are you seeing that organizations are really starting to understand the criticality of having that data in a cleansed fashion and having access to it? Or are individuals and organizations still kind of coming to that realization?
I think the realization is there, but how to fix it is where they're all stuck at. I don't know a single IT or business leader in the industry that doesn't recognize how important that is, but it's a massive problem to solve. That's really decades of technology debt and maybe not leading practices around data management, a lot of regional and business unit related kind of silos and disparation. They're figuring out how to overcome that. There's no one size fits all, there's no magic bullet, but I think there's steps to be taken that you can start managing that better over time.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's a movement. Everything has to move in the same direction, right?
Absolutely.
Data situated in order to use some of these more leading technologies. Okay, great. All right, Mike. So really good topics there, right? So we talked about data governance, talked about AI.
Yeah.
Let's maybe shift the topic a little bit to security of data.
Sure.
What are you hearing? What did the report uncover around security?
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, life sciences has always taken security and privacy very critically. They've all regulatory mandates. They handle a lot of very sensitive patient data and other intellectual property. It's always been a big topic of investment for them. What I'm seeing now is that shifting a little bit, because now that AI, particularly generative AI, is getting access to wide amounts of corporate data and other form of data, they're taking a closer look at how they control access to that information, both from like an employee perspective, like who has access to it, how are those employee rights being inherited by the AI models that they're using, and how discoverable is that data? That's a unique complexity that wasn't really a problem a few years ago. And also, how are they protecting their own intellectual property? Most of these AI models are third-party models. So how are they making sure that their intellectual property isn't being fed back into the models or retrained with potentially competitor data mixed in? So there's a lot of emphasis on securing AI models in private cloud environments so you can leverage this technology, but sort of have that trust and assurance that's within your own IT environment.
I mean, it's a wild new frontier, right? I mean, using the data, who has access to the data, what's getting out, what are we actually sharing? How does cyber come into that?
Yeah, I mean, so cyber is kind of embedded through all of it. We're seeing a lot of CISOs and cyber organizations take the lead on understanding the risk related to certain models. Like, how do I understand if a model is trained in the right type of data that's going to give me the outcome, or is there bias built into that model, for example? How does that model drift over time? Because while it may work great during my testing, maybe that model changes 3 months later, and now it's going to change the results of that process, that information. So cyber is definitely taking a leading role there, as well as managing the risk of third parties. If you build a really critical business process around one AI model, and maybe that AI model doesn't exist in a year, what happens to that process? So they're helping them evaluate the risk of third parties, both from a business continuity perspective and also a security perspective, making sure that those third parties they're introducing aren't creating new emerging security risk in their environment.
A number of these areas are almost unforeseen.
Right.
You almost can't even think about what some of the challenges are going to be until you kind of get into it. So, what are your clients saying about some of these risks that are coming up or unforeseen risks that they're coming up against, and how are they resolving those?
So a lot of it's being resolved at kind of the board level right now because we're seeing enterprise risk management has always been a requirement for these organizations, but they're starting to appreciate that there's maybe a lot more unforeseen or emerging risk, especially with the kind of the AI world, the geopolitical world. There's a supply chain disruption. Those things created risks that no one really saw coming. And so how do they get ahead of that, right? So these modern ERM functions are taking a much more data-driven approach to understand data from third parties, data from all their functional and regional teams. Can you use some of that data to do early warning, kind of predictive trends of risk? Can you use outside data about suppliers and your regional and political matters and other types of influences that come into the matter to really get a really strong grasp of what our risk posture looks like and how to make sure we're mitigating against that in the near future? So again, a lot of data, and we're seeing AI even used to help run through those risk models to kind of provide outcomes and probabilities along the way.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is moving so fast. I mean, what we're going to see in a year or 2 years or 3 years, I mean, the pace of innovation is just incredible. So, as we get to the end of it, maybe any other insights from the study that you might want everyone to take away from?
Yeah, I mean, when we saw the study, I was really pleased with just the level of investment and excitement around emerging technologies in life sciences. That's my passion, it always has been, and seeing that life sciences is really pushing the envelope on how we can use technology, not just to produce not just to improve their business outcomes, but really to like save lives, right? The beauty of this industry is these devices and pharmaceuticals are going to end up saving someone's life or improving someone's life one day. And if they can get those things to market more efficiently, that's good for everybody. And I'm really excited. We talked a lot about AI, but it's connected medical devices. It's using things like augmented and virtual reality for clinical situations and helping people with a variety of matters. There's just a lot of possibility out there that I'm real excited to be involved in doing our part to help our clients be more successful for those better patient outcomes.
It's a fascinating study. This is a great topic. I mean, we're having a number of conversations in the market around this. So thank you very much for publishing it and for reaching out to all of our global clients to really get their insights.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.